You didn't make me click.
Hello, everyone. Can we get some hellos in the chat so I know you guys are all joining us? I see we've already got some comments before we even started.
That's cool.
Hello, Val and Anne. Hello, Shalane. And hello, Queen of Condiments. Thanks for joining us again.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. I really loved all the comments and the questions and everything that we got last week. So I really hope that everybody's, again, going to comment, tell us where you're from, and also any questions whatsoever, maybe not even exactly doing what we're supposed to be doing, but something quilt related, we could probably answer those today. So shall we begin?
I think so.
Okay, perfect. So, did you get all your cutting done? Did you get all those blocks done from last week? There wasn't very many because of the half square or the hourglass units. But the week before, everybody should be caught up right now. So, this is great. So, this week, it's going to be something that we've done already. They're non-mirror image flying geese. But you know the old saying, right? Practice makes perfect. And so we can always make a few more. So we're going to just review the whole process again. We're going to continue on, and we're going to go from there. So Tiffany, can you hear my sewing machine on, please? And the iron. And we are going to start with our first unit. So these ones, are we labeling these units 5A, 5B?
Just 5.
Just 5? They're all the same?
Colorways. Yeah.
Okay, 2 different colorways, just 5. Okay, perfect. So we're going to start with our colorway number 1 first. So we're going to need the I fabric, large square. We are going to need 2A fabric, small squares.
1. Just 1.
Well, we're going to need 2 eventually.
Okay, but you said you were doing the 1 unit first.
Yeah, and 2 Gs. So remember how
I'm being silly.
we did this? We are going to take...
oh, we got a hello from Washington State.
Washington, cool. Are the cherry trees in bloom out there yet? I know definitely not here. It snowed again yesterday. So I'm going to take my magic wand and I'm going to draw on both sides of my magic wand, drawing my sewing lines. And I had a lot of comments that the ladies absolutely loved being drawing their lines and sewing on their lines.
Mom, does that color get heat set?
It's a sewing line. It should be okay.
Okay.
Just
I
could
you
probably
are going to.
Yeah, it should be fine. I could also wash it off. Okay, so there's our 2 lines. If I don't have a magic wand, we can do it as well with a regular ruler. I'm going to use my white chalk and we're going to draw on the back of these units. I love batik. I get to choose what side I want to be the back. So I'm going to place my, this dotted line is a 1/4 inch away from the edge. And I'm going to place that line on the diagonal of my block. And I'm going to sew. So here's a tip. Whenever we're drawing, always make sure that you draw really close to your ruler. Don't hold your pen up because your line is going to be quite far away from the where you want it to be. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to line up that 1/4 inch seam back on the corners again. And I'm going to draw my other line. Now, I had a few comments from the last time we did the flying geese that the ladies absolutely love this method, that because they drew their lines and sewed on the lines, it was the best flying goose that they've ever made. So just remember that if you're making even regular flying geese, you're always able to draw the lines if that's what you want to do.
And Peggy says the cherry blossom trees are starting to bloom.
They are, eh?
Cherry blossom, that's what you asked.
Cherry blossoms, yeah.
Yeah, she said they are starting to bloom.
Oh, nice. No, we still have snow. There's not going to be any kind of that for a while. So now I can take my squares and I can cut them into triangles on the diagonal. So it's in between those two lines that we just drew. Now some people have just lined up the line, some people have just lined up the triangles on a diagonal on their big block and never drew their sewing lines, but I'm having a hard time speaking today. So some people have just drawn the line on the large square, cut their small squares into halves and lined them up without drawing the lines and sewed with their perfect 1/4 inch seam. That's okay too. So now on my 5 3/4 inch square, I am going to draw my diagonal line. Yeah, I'm going to draw my diagonal line
on the right side.
On the right side of the fabric. Because this one's so dark, I'm using the white chalk. And that's going to give me the place where I can line up my blocks. So after the video, Tiff will be putting this sheet out there. We just wanted to keep it a secret. We are going to start. So G is our unit 1, A is our unit 2. So do you have that correct?
We're not calling it.
Or not unit 1, side 1. Sorry. Thank you. And we're going to do our fabric A on the right. So our fabric G is going to be on the left. The fabric A is going to be on the right. I love to use the seam align glue, so I am just going to move it up to my ironing mat. And I am going to... Uh-oh. Tiff, can I get a pin, please? I mustn't have closed the lid. It dries out. Because it's such a tiny shaft, it really dries out easy. Easy to fix, though. On occasion, I've had to dry it out, but usually that's all we need. Okay, that's not working. Nope. Give me back the pin, please.
I'm going to grab a thicker pin, I think.
Yeah, I like the yellow-headed ones to do that with.
I had to do this with my wood glue this morning, too.
There we go.
Nope.
Nope, I just broke it.
No, it pushes back in.
Or does it push back in?
Yeah.
Is there another bottle over there? We can dry this out after. Do we have another bottle, Tiff? No?
No, we don't have another
Okay,
bottle.
so we're going to live dangerously. I don't have the glue. So I am going to line these up here on my line. And we are going to sew. And some pins, please. I'm going to
really dried out.
Change them on the opposite side.
Here's some pins.
Thank you, dear. She's going to fix my bottle.
I'm going to try.
This time I'm going to go old school, and I am just going to use some pins and hold them in place. But because it's a bias edge, I really do like to use the glue the most. Okay, so let's go sew. So I've turned my sewing machine on. I'm remembering to turn it down to a 2.0 stitch length. Have my thread in there, my 1/4 inch foot, or I could use a regular foot because I'm just sewing on the line. So off we go.
Down and lost it.
So I really have to take my time right now and sew carefully because the edges are not stuck down. Again, when I'm sewing, I'm not exactly sewing. If I can't sew on the line, I want to sew one thread inside the line. I don't want to go bigger. That being said, we do have lots of space on our units, trim up space, so wherever you sew will be just fine. But the best you can sew on the line. All right.
I don't know where your scissors are.
Oh. Okay, so now that I have them sewn, thank you, Tiff, I am going to cut the unit apart on the diagonal. I thought I was all prepared today. We were here early. We were sitting here chatting. I forgot my glue. Alrighty, so now what I want to do is I'm going to be pressing, and I want to press towards the little triangles. So the first thing I'm going to do is set my seam, and then I'm going to very carefully open them up. It's so easy to grab this corner and pull it and make it stretch because it's a bias. So I just want to open that carefully with my fingers without stretching that bias. Again, set my seam. It just embeds that thread right into our fabric really nicely. And off we go. So now we have our two little hearts or foxes, whatever you like. I am going to turn it around. I forgot to draw my diagonal on this side, so you should have really drawn the two diagonals. So I am just going to do that now in case you forgot. I'm just going to use my 45-degree line on the side of my block just to make sure that it stays nice and straight, and it will be going sort of into the intersection here. And I'm just going to draw my other line. Would have been easier if I would have done it before, but we can do it. There we go. So now remember, I've turned it around, and the flying goose here is the white. So when we want to finish, we want to have the opposite color there. So I know this will be the flying goose that we're making. So I'm just going to line this up to the edge. Did you fix my glue?
No, I lost the nib. I've made it worse.
Okay. That's really funny. Back to pins. I could use a glue stick if I wanted to, but I find the glue sticks are too wide. They can gum up my needle, so I don't prefer to use those. But I do love the pins in a bottle. So there's our first unit, and while we're here, we might as well get the other unit. So again, we want the opposite color.
Aha, I found it.
On the side. Going to pin.
I dropped it on the floor. That was my bad.
Is it working now? Did you get it open yet?
I didn't even get a chance to try because I lost it.
That's all right. We'll do it old school. We'll use pins and we'll sew very carefully. Alrighty, back to the sewing machine. Alrighty. My thread came out of my needle. Let's just get that back in there. Any questions today?
No, not so far.
All right. Again, it's just a recap of what we've done before, but just a different color. Using different colors, different fabrics. So we're going to sew on the one line. I can flip it around and sew back up. Let's just make sure this is lined up nicely. Okay, so here we go again, Tiff. Our thread broke just like last week. So you know what that tells me? It tells me my machine is time for a service. So I'm going to have to book it into our local service department and get it serviced, because it really shouldn't be doing that. So something's going on. There's might be thread stuck somewhere, or there might be a burr somewhere that we have to, my repair tech will take care of that. So up one side, back down the other. So there's our one unit, and we're gonna go, yep, it broke again, Tiff.
Oh no.
Yeah. Glad we have a good needle threaders on there. You know, to be honest with you, we were so busy last week, I never even thought to check it out after the video. We turned it off after we did the video last week, and I never turned it back on again until today. Mind you, I did sew on Tuesday, but it didn't seem to do this. Alrighty, so let's cut this in half, Tiffany.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. She's still working on my glue over there. So we've got it. 1, 2, our pin. 3, 4. We're going to press these out again. Can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Okay, by setting our seam and pressing. We're going to press our seam and pressing. And one more. And there you have it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 oversized units that are all identical. Because I have a striped fabric, you can see that one's going one way, one's going the other. I don't think I really care about that. Once it's in the block, it's going to be just fine. So let's square it up. Again, my favorite ruler is the wing clipper ruler. So we're going to use that, and we're going to be squaring them up to 2.5 by 4.5. So what I want to do is find that little X just over top of the 2.5 inch line. I am going to put that on the nose of my goose with the 2 diagonal lines. Turn that to you a little bit. Do the 2 diagonal lines on our seams. And I have a little bit of fabric to square up all the way around. Holding my block, cutting again. Like any square, I want to put my ruler down, roll back a little bit, and cut forward. I don't want to cut the rulers, wear the rulers off at the end. So I'm going to turn it 180 degrees. Now I'm going to take my 2.5 inch line, my 4.5 inch line. I'm going to line them up on the edge of the unit that I just trimmed. So it's on the 2 trimmed edges. I know it's correct because this seam here is coming right to the point here, and I have this special X here on the nose of my goose to make sure that I don't cut off any of that 1/4 inch. I'm trying really hard not to lose anybody's points once we get them all sewn together. So there we have it. There's one. Let's go over that again. Point towards me, finding the 2.5, the X on top of the 2.5, lining up my 2 diagonals on my 2 seams. Go back. turning my unit, lining up my 2.5 and my 4.5 inch line on the edge of my goose. So we thought we would do today's units as a separate week as opposed to putting them all on that first week, because I figured that many flying geese, you would have revolted and not followed along with us. Okay, so now I really do love the wing clipper ruler, and it is my favorite ruler to use this, but if you don't have it, if you can't get it where you are, let's just use the regular square. So I'm going to put my goose down. I am going to find the 2.5 by 4.5 inch lines, and half of 4.5 is 2 1/4. So that's the line that I need right there. I'm going to do it this way because I want to find the point, my 2 1/4. See, I really don't like this ruler. There we go. We'll do it this way. Diagonal on the diagonal, my 2 1/4 inch point right here. So right here is my 2 1/4 by my 2 1/4. So that little point right there is what I want to put on the edge of, into the intersection of the two seams. So this time all I have is the one diagonal that I can use. So I won't know whether it's crooked as much. I'm going to just try the best that I can. Cutting the right. Cutting the left. Now we're going to rotate it. Now I'm going to find my 2.5 inch line, my 4.5 inch line. So there's my 2.5. Sorry, there's my 4.5 and my 2.5. My 1/4 inch line is right at the tip of my goose, so I don't lose his little nose. And we can square up. Okay, one more. We'll do it one more time. So let's find my 2 1/4 inch point on the point of my nose there, diagonal on the seam. No questions? They're all experts now.
They're all experts.
Yeah.
They've done this once before, to be fair.
You know what I would like to know? How long you've been sewing, or how long you've been quilting. So if you would love to put in the comments how long you've been quilting, I would love to know whether you're a beginner or whether you're seasoned, whether you just joined us for the fun of it. So there we have it. There's our first unit, our unit 5. Shall we go over it one more time with the other colors? Yes. All right, here. You can take my scraps, my dear. Thank you. So this time what I want to have is our B square. We're going to need 2 Ds. And again, we're going to need 2 A's. So this time I am going to draw my lines. There's my white pen. You notice I just flipped the ruler. There's a really good reason that you should never use your rulers upside down. The score line on your rulers is, or even the printed lines on the rulers are always on the back. If you turn them over to use, they're not touching your fabric, so you really can't judge exactly where they are. So always make sure that you use your rulers right side up. So there's our 1. There's our 2. And grab my white. Again, these ones are on the back. I think I like turning it around. There's the back. Again, you know what? I'm using batik, and the one thing about batik, if you can't tell the back that's not predominant, it doesn't really matter. And if you got one in the quilt, or two that was one way and two that was the other, no one's ever going to see it at the end of the day. So now this time with my big one, this time I am going to draw my line, my diagonal lines, both of them this time right away. So I can line up my squares. There we go. Oh, I didn't cut these. Let's cut these. Not with the magic wand. I cringed. I seen a lady in here trying to cut blocks with a magic wand one time. I just cringed because there's just not enough ruler there to be able to hold, to keep your fingers away from the edge. You don't want to bleed all over your quilt. So there is our D squares and our A squares. I think it's time for a new blade too.
Karen says hi from Dunville, Ontario.
Dunville, hi. How long have you been quilting, Karen? Let me know. Okay, so D will be on the left.
Val and Anne must be doing math trying to figure out how long they've been quilting.
Val and Anne have been joining us for all of our sew-alongs. They've been quilting for quite a while. Did you fix the glue?
No.
You didn't? Okay.
I'm going to have to soak it in glue remover or something.
Yeah. Sometimes if the lid wasn't closed, soaking it in warm water too sometimes can just loosen that glue up a little bit and save the nib.
Yeah. We must not have closed it properly.
Probably not. It's happened before. I just have to be a little bit more careful not to stretch my edges. Okay. So again, my D is on the left, my A is on the right. All right, let's go sew. Needle down, butt this up in there. So you can see that I'm just taking my time. I don't have the glue. I just have to take a little bit more time because things can shift, and my needle, my thread broke again. Oh, it's sewed to the end though.
I'm getting you a new spool of thread.
Thank you, dear.
Oh. I grabbed a tangled mess.
Let's try this. Oh dear. It's one of those days, right? You think, you get up tired and you think, oh, I should have stayed in bed. Some days we just should have stayed in bed. Do. I feel like I should be singing, humming a theme song or something. Mission Impossible here. Okay, just gonna unclip that just so we can start over here.
Turn it over.
Actually, because I'm sewing on the line, it really doesn't matter.
You had your 1/4 inch foot on, so it threw me.
Just want to make sure everything stays where it's supposed to here in the center. And there we go. We'll take our pins out and we are going to cut on the diagonal. I wish you could see Tiff's got her nose in my sewing machine down there trying to look to see if there's any burrs or anything on it that she can see.
No, I specifically moved away so they can't see my head while I do this.
I would probably disconnect it or something, or else I would grab the camera and let you see her, but it's quite funny.
I don't see anything.
I don't know. It doesn't usually break thread, that's all. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there we have our little heart units, and we are going to turn it around, and whatever color I have on that side, I am going to put the opposite. Lining it up. And then the A fabric on this side, lining it up with the edge as well as with the drawn line that I drew. Again, taking my time, just getting everything lined up. Quilting's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be rushed. It's not supposed to be a race. Everybody can sew at their own speed. Sometimes I can power sew and I just sew through, and other times I just take my time and get it done. That's why these sew-alongs are so great, because you can sew at your own speed. In a regular classroom, you feel like you're holding up the rest of the group because some people will be faster than others. This way we get to sew at our very own speed. All is good. Now, some sewing machines, the way I turned and flipped to do it around, sometimes some machines would really pull really tightly there and make a mess at the beginning. We don't have to do it that way. We could always grab our second unit and we could just sew that one. Let's just get this pin out of the way. So now what I can do is I can cut that first unit off, leave this one in there to hold my ends. I can line this second one up. Always make sure that your seam stays in the direction that you pressed it. I was just doing this and I got caught on the edge and it had flipped down. So my fingers have been trained to feel that lump that's not in the right direction. So I knew right away to stop it and make sure that that seam's going in the proper direction. Just line this up. It's shifted a little bit. I'm just going to reshift it back. There we go. And my first piece, let's sew on this side. Okay, so don't forget while you're there on YouTube to like our channel and like our video here. I'm sure that you've also subscribed.
So we have a question. What are you doing wrong if you get some of the other fabric in the bottom V? I don't think I've ever had that happen.
I did have it happen a couple times. It depends on which way the points are going. And I haven't figured that out yet, but it has, because we're using the no nudge method, that our blocks are a little bit bigger. On occasion, we do get a little bit of fabric in the seam, and I haven't figured out yet exactly why, but I know it happened to me as well. I know what you're talking about. Might be a question we have to pose to Miss Tucker.
It could be if your seam allowance is too small, that could happen maybe.
Maybe. Because on occasion, right here, there's a little bit of
if you're sewing
the seam.
I'm thinking about it, and if you're sewing with too small of a seam allowance on your first seam and your second seam, then that could happen.
I don't know.
I think.
I don't know. We're going to have to next time it happens to me, because I know it has happened to me, and it's been random and not all of them. I'm going to have to analyze that one a bit more and maybe get back to you. Does anybody else, has that ever happened to them?
Valerie says that Anne says to figure it out, Cindy, because it bugs her.
Oh, I will absolutely do that.
Yeah, we'll have to do some research.
Yeah. My buddy's a certified instructor, so I think I just might be sending her a little memo and ask our message, or maybe even Deb Tucker herself, and see if it's happened to them and if they know why. Alrighty, so I'm going back to my wing clipper ruler because I know that is my absolute favorite. And these ones are squared up identical to the other ones. So I'm going to find that little X on top of my 2.5. And I am going to line these up. Whoops. And we're going to cut. Now, we are sewing really straight. We're drawing straight lines. And sometimes when we go to trim up, it seems like our seam lines are off according to our ruler. I'm hoping that one of these will do that, because it's an easy fix and it's not anything that you did wrong. Okay, so sometimes if I'm lining up a line, I'm just going to pretend that it's off. If this diagonal was on my seam and this one, you can see that there's a gap in there. It doesn't mean that I have sewn wrong. It probably means that I stretched it while I was pressing. So what I will do is I'll go back to the iron and I will press my corner back down, and I can give it a little steam, sometimes a little starch, and you smoosh this in a little bit, and you can get that seam to go right back to where it is. Because it always seems like it's perfect in the center. It's just those little corners that sort of flare out. And 99% of the time, it is because we stretched it. Usually when I'm doing a whole flock of geese, I'll have a couple of them out. It's not a big deal. I just go back to my iron and I just re-iron them. Sometimes if it's really bad, I'll give it another little spritz of starch. So what that does is relax the fabric.
And sometimes if it's really bad, you do have to resew.
On occasion,
sometimes I've gone to iron it back in the right direction, and I look at my seam and I realize that, oh, it was my seam that swerved.
Yeah.
And then...
Okay. This one is really out. Let me see if I can adjust it on this side. This one's really, really out. Badly. Mm-hmm. So let's give this a... See if my iron's on. I am going to turn my steam on. I have no steam. I have no water in my iron. So I'm just going to squish this up, get that back to where I want it to be. If this doesn't work, I'm just going to go grab the starch bottle. But usually that's all it needs to be. And remember how I always said when we're pressing, I don't like to use I don't like to use steam, because it can, It can set things. This time I want to use seam because I do want to set it. Okay, there's my 2.5. I'm lining it up here. I'm much better now. I'm just going to take one more little press. So as I'm ironing, there we go. We're darn close there now. Whoops, my corner's under. Alrighty. So usually what I do is when I'm trimming up a whole bunch of geese, like if I was trimming up all 24, I will just take those ones that are a little off, put them to the side, go fix them with the iron, and then come on back. My 2.5, my 4.5. My X is on there, and we're good to go. And I have 1, 2, 3, and one more. And this one's good. We're right on again. My X, fabric all the way around. My 2 diagonals are lined up really nicely with my seam. So I guess I just stretched that one on purpose just so I could show you what to do.
Accidentally on purpose?
Sure. Remember, teachers always make mistakes only so they can show you how to fix them. And there you have it. So what we're going to do is continue on sewing. So you need either 24 if you're doing the lap size of each way, 24 this one and 24 this one, or 40 or 72. And we're going to label these Unit 5. So Tiff, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we are going to get a sneak peek at the quilt coming together. We're going to do the first step of sewing units together.
Yay, finally we get to see what this is going to do.
Not fully, but we get to put part of the block together.
Sounds good. So on that note, unless there's any other questions, if you want to just go check over there quick, Tiff, to see if there's any other questions.
Oh, we do. Let's see. Oh, another person saying it's very frustrating when the fabric shows in the bottom of the V.
I know. So what I've done with that is sort of clipped it off, and you can go underneath the seam and pull those little pieces out. So you can get away or get them out, but I'm going to find out. I will let you know next week. I am definitely going to find out.
And she says even with checking her 1/4 inch seam allowance, it was still out, so
I think it has something to do with how we're overlapping the blocks. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. So this
maybe you have to put number 1 and then number 2. You can't put
2 and then 1.
2 and then 1.
I don't know.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
I would swear it's the 1/4 inch seam.
I don't know. We're going to find out.
I could be wrong. Yeah, and a comment that it's exciting that we get to see part of it put together.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to remember, ladies, that or people, sewers, that these things are live, and we have not made the quilt ahead of time. We've seen it on paper, but we have not made it. So I don't know exactly what these blocks in real time is going to look like too. So it's kind of exciting for us as well.
Very exciting.
Very exciting, yes. So I guess on that note, we can say goodbye. I'm going to just keep sewing my units here, marking them and sewing them, and I'll be ready to put some things together for next week. Happy quilting, everybody.